Good afternoon, Muskegon. Hi, this is Gregory T. Roberts. And yeah, we got a different view happening today. You know, the show must, somebody once said that the show must go on, and hey, it's going to go on. It is March 31st. Can you believe it? It's ain't 54 degrees outside, feels more like 44. Cloudy. Getting ready to go into April tomorrow, April Fool's Day. Speaking of April Fool's Day, I must say this. We're going to be doing a special show Tuesday because of history making. Former President Trump, 45th President of the United States, was indicted late yesterday. I know you guys want to hear everything. We want to make sure that we have all the facts before we come at this situation. I'm going to say this real quick. We have seen in the justice system over and over again that it does not work, but I am going to trust in our Constitution. I am going to trust in the law system. I am going to trust that let's have this thing played out. You know, the amazing thing about this whole thing is that the people that are in charge of New York are being chastised about this, but it was a grand jury that decided to indict him. So we will be following this story as it follows. Now, we're doing a special show. Now, I know we've been talking about racism. We're going to jump back on that next week. And let me tell you something, people. You can sit and put your head in the sand if you want to, okay? It exists. It's just like we talked about molestation. We've talked about, you name it, domestic violence, just like we've talked about all these situations that are happening in our community. And you can put your head in the sand if you want to, but I choose not to. And this radio station chooses not to. Why? Because it affects our community. And we got to talk about it. And speaking of affecting our community, we had to check the racism issue today because of the shooting that happened just recently. And the shootings are happening more frequently. And I just want to throw a statistic at you people. And you people should really think about this. Our children are more likely to die by a gunshot bullet than car crashes. Yeah, I said it. Car crashes, they're more likely to die from gun violence. So with that said, I reached out to two of my people, and they're on vacation, but you know what? They said it is too important to not come on the show. I want to welcome Kwame, James, and Rebecca St. Clair. They're on vacation in Chicago. How you guys doing?
Just wonderful. How are you?
Guys, thank you. I really, from the bottom of my heart, I called you at last second. You guys recommend, you are the current and new future of politics and caring for our people. But you also have kids like I have kids. We can't call them kids anymore.
They grown.
Yeah, we can because they always reaching in our wallet. So
heartstrings. Oh.
So they always reaching in our wallet. So I want to talk to you guys about the gun violence and the conversations that you guys are having, like I'm having, to our kids and our teenagers and people in church and everywhere I go.
Yeah, cool. Let's do it.
All right. With that said, we've seen that the school shootings are coming. It shows no color, shows no race, shows no boundaries, shows no sexuality. People that are frustrated or whatever in the system are taking it out on and shooting other people. What conversation are you having with because you have 23-year-olds, right?
Yeah, they're both 23.
What are you having? What conversation are you having with them?
That's an interesting question. We honestly haven't been talking about violence recently so much with them. But it's come up, over the years throughout adolescence and into adulthood, situations arise,
Mm-hmm.
I think with ours particularly, uh, the issues of like how to comport oneself are the sort of topics that we discuss with them, because we don't really have a whole lot of we don't have the same measure of control over what other people are doing.
Mm-hmm.
Us has our own contribution though to every situation that we find ourselves in, and sometimes just because I've chosen to respond more, just because we haven't had a tight rein on our own emotions and our own expression, we can create a much more dramatic outcome than what has to be. So we talk to ours a lot about what we can do individually to keep things from getting out of hand.
Right.
And sometimes when things just like come at us like wild style, you have a different conversation about what to do with that. But most of the time, there's a lot that we can do before things blow up to help prevent the explosion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that because people are blaming it on mental health. People are saying that guns don't kill people. People kill. You throw out all the stuff. Here's the thing. The thing is that it's still happening, and no, it's not getting done. But yet it's happening. So I guess how do we address it? How do we start, Rebecca?
So, as a mental health professional, that idea that it's mental health is really offensive to me. I work with people in our community all day, every day that have mental health needs, and they are not violent. It is such a disservice to people who are seeking mental health care for us to try and hang gun violence on mental health. We absolutely have a mental health crisis in this country since COVID. The numbers of people seeking services has skyrocketed. The level of severity has skyrocketed. Suicide has skyrocketed.
Right.
And
Domestic violence has skyrocketed.
yeah, so by pushing that narrative that this isn't a gun problem, it's a mental health problem, there's so much stigma around getting treatment for mental health that if people have more stigma surrounding getting treatment because of the gun violence problem, things only get worse.
Mm, mm. Now, I excuse me because I didn't do a proper introduction of you guys. Would you guys tell the people a little bit about yourselves and what you serve, the offices that you currently serve in?
Oh yeah, sure. Thank you. Well, this is my wife, Rebecca St. Clair. She is, uh, like she was saying, a health professional. She works with Health West. So that's largely mental health concerns that she's dealing with on the day to day. She is one of the managers of their youth programs for the whole agency. And she is also a commissioner with the city of Muskegon. She's been in that role for about a year and a half almost.
Year and 3 months.
And Kwame, you being shy, you're on the Muskegon School Board as well.
It's true. I am a trustee with the Muskegon Public Schools Board of Education. I am, a poet and a musician of sorts too, which is also kind of fun. And mostly, a man who understands that no man is an island.
Right.
We are in this community together. We all have our individual existences within the context of each other.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens in my community is tremendously important to me.
Very, very good comment that you just said. What happens in your community, because just because we haven't, and thank God we have not had anything like in Nashville or other places, there still have been shootings outside the school or letters sent home because of danger around schools.
Mhm. You know, I work across the street from Covenant Academy, which is a school, which is about 2 blocks from Muskegon High School. And last week we came into the office to bullets lodged inside the building.
Now, I want you to say that again so people hear it.
So last week we came into the building, which is right across the street from Muskegon Covenant Academy and 2 blocks from Muskegon High School. And we came into work on Monday morning to bullets lodged in our building, that there had been a shootout or something in front of our building, and there were bullets that went through the building, through several walls. While thankfully there was no one working at that space at that time, but that it could have been a very different outcome.
Wow. So, Kwame, I know that you're dealing with a lot of school issues and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? What do we say to our kids about these issues if you get and to you, Rebecca, about dealing with frustration and dealing with issues? And because right now, there are a few agencies out there that are trying to do, but we don't have enough. And there is a huge issue with mental health, which we have been preaching forever, which our community likes to shun.
True. Which is part of the reason why I'm not sure that this is one of the issues that starts with the message that we with our youth. It's not just the kids. This is a deep cultural problem that we have, not even just like the Black culture or the poor culture, but like all of American culture. And maybe even Western culture generally, but certainly all of American culture is really deeply steeped in violence as some sort of great virtue.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there are all sorts of interesting reasons for that, but we have to get a handle on the counterbalance, which is that violence is destructive. As whatever value you can get out of beating somebody into submission, whatever value you can get for creating a good agenda in the world by overpowering everybody and dominating the folks who oppose you, whatever good you can create with that kind of approach is a very limited good. It's overshadowed by all the damage that happens in all the collateral damage,
Mm-hmm.
all the people who are no longer able to support you because you broke them in the process.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's deep in our American culture. And we have to learn as adults that we are responsible for changing that for our kids. Like parents tell their kids, well, if they talk to you funny, they talk about your sister, you make sure you fight, you make sure you like, I understand the value of wanting your kids to know how to protect themselves. I have been, brought up to learn martial arts, and my father was like real clear that you got to look after your sisters and all. Like I get that, it's real,
Mm-hmm.
But we lean real hard on that, and more so than I think is really good for us. We lean too heavily on this notion that the end of it, the final solution is the person who ain't gonna bother you anymore because you made sure they know who's the boss.
Unlike what we used to lean on, for instance, if you got kicked out of school
Mm-hmm.
You had to deal, like me heading home, I had to deal with Mrs. Chambers, Mrs. Newsom,
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. Jenkins, and
Yes.
you got whooped by all of them. And
Mm-hmm.
then they called your mom, then you got mom and dad jacked up, and then you had to go back and apologize to all of them. Those
Right.
things we don't rely on anymore. We
No.
relied on if somebody hits you, it's no more with fists. It's all about the gun and shoot.
Yeah. You know, and to tie in with your point about we used to have a village that would raise you up, that is a huge issue in our community. Is it's not just a mental health crisis. Like kids aren't getting their mental health needs not met, they're not getting their basic needs met. You know, Muskegon has a really high poverty rate. We have a really, so the city of Muskegon just went through a housing study, which is being released to the community, I think maybe today or next week. But um, we had a national research firm put together a 400-page housing study that looked at a lot of different factors, and the commission had a special work session on Wednesday to get just some of the high over-level details of that. And one of the things that came out is the city of Muskegon, obviously, not a surprise, has a much higher poverty rate than the surrounding county, but we also have a much higher rate of um, non-married families,
Mm-hmm.
so significantly higher. And I don't have the numbers with me, but like I said, it'll be released next week if it hasn't already been on the city website. But we also have a lower level of high school graduating, significantly lower than the surrounding areas in the county. So that means that we have a workforce that is making less money because they haven't finished high school. That means that we have single parent families that are struggling harder to make ends meet because they're not making enough money.
And
And you
younger
have,
parents.
yes, yes, and younger parents. That was another thing that came out of that housing study. Um, so you have youth who are unattended much of the time. And, you know, I think there are parents who don't parent their children for a lot of different reasons, and it's not all because they have bad intentions. Very often they would love to be there for their children, but the best that they can do is to work 3 jobs so that they can keep a roof over their head, which means that they don't have the capacity to be there to make sure that they're going to school, to make sure that they're getting their needs met. There's also a lot of kids in this community who aren't being parented at all. You know, they are out on their own. You know, we talk about drug culture and gang culture, and people don't understand why individuals end up in that life. It's because they're getting their needs met.
Well, if you look at the last shooter, uh, had both parents.
Mhm.
The parents they thought they only had a single gun in the household, which they had got rid of.
Mhm.
They saw her with a bag leaving the house and even asked her what was in the bag.
Mhm.
And she said, "Oh, mom, you're just being paranoid." And the next thing you know, several people are dead. Does it bother the both of you that our politicians have made this into a political hotbed and that nothing is getting done?
Absolutely. You know, for me, if I hear one more person talk about thoughts and prayers rather than policy and change, you know, I can't begin to explain how frustrating that is. We have had the power to make a change in gun violence the whole time. Like it has always been possible to curb this, and there has always been the lack of will, you know, political will to make those hard calls and risk making some people angry. You know, one of the things that I have learned very quickly in my short career as a politician is there is no answer that I can give for whatever vote that I am making that will make everybody happy.
You're not.
It doesn't matter what the issue is. Any way that I vote, I'm gonna tick, roughly half of the people off. But my personal stance on this is I am always going to try to act with the interest of the most in mind. Even though I know that somebody's going to be mad about it. There's no way to not have that happen.
Let me get to the board and people, excuse me, because I don't have the glasses on. Unfortunately, those suffering from mental health and are nationwide, having these discussions about the type of treatments and help available, disparities in our communities are first and foremost. Agree or disagree?
I agree. I think that as a mental health provider for a community mental health entity, so we are the entity in the community that provides services to those with the biggest need. We never have enough resources. We never have enough staff. We never have, there's never enough money to keep the staff that we need to do the work that we need to do to provide the services that our community needs. And that also comes from political football because the money from us comes from Washington or Lansing, and mental health is always being punted back and forth. Well, who's going to pay for this, and where is it going to come from? And meanwhile, we're out there doing the best that we can every day, but it's never enough.
Although you guys need to be commended because you guys decided to open Department of Leisure Services back up to help big brothers and sisters, to help Muskegon Public Schools, because one entity is not going to get it done when it comes down to helping kids.
Yes, absolutely.
Let me go back to the board. Benita, thank you. It says other needs, food, housing, and medical shortages contribute to our economic needs that we need to match with resources. We need to identify and address the gaps. That's a whole conversation right there.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm glad she brought up that point too, because that's what was on my mind a couple questions ago. You know, there are gaps in the community that need to be addressed, and you know, I think what she's referring to here are like funding gaps and you know, gaps in systems for programming and policy and whatnot. But then there are also the kind of gaps that Rebecca was alluding to when she was talking about how families are sometimes just struggling to make ends meet, which leaves kids uncared for, or you know, leaves parents with part of their parenting responsibilities like going under accomplished. And these are gaps that aren't going to get filled by policy from Lansing or from Washington, but rather they're going to get filled by individuals in the community. You know, when we recognize that there are young people whose parents are working 3 jobs, then it's up to us to find ways to look after those kids, because like they're our kids. All the kids are our kids. You know, I got mine. Yeah, okay. And mine are yours. Like what's going to happen?
Good point.
To restore that village mentality is the recognition that all of these kids are all of ours. We all have to learn that it is not enough for me to take care of my little nuclear family unit, you know, and defend against the perils of the community around me. I have to recognize that my kids are part of that community. They go to school with those kids. They learn how to grow up and be human beings from interacting with everybody outside my house.
Right.
You know, and so that all has to become my my field of play. You know, in growing my family, and we've got to we got to learn that lesson quick.
Well, and then here's the thing that do you think that with with media and we have is somewhat has been glamorized. We had some kid that's in the basement that's shy, not the not the jock or not whatever, and he's just playing this video game where he's just shooting up, or she's playing this video game
Right.
where their hearts have got hardened to what they see as violence. And so they just go out and just say, you know what, I'm sick and tired, and I'm just going to go out just like the next person.
Yeah, that's real. You know, like the images that we see across the culture just reinforce that point that I made at the very beginning, that this whole American culture is so steeped in violence that the problem is bigger than incident. You know, we're all so all right. So this is one of the things that put it in perspective for me. Okay, as this was years ago that I heard this comment, but they were saying, okay, PG movie. All right, the rating says, there's some stuff that might be kind of questionable. You know, you can get a PG rating though with people beating each other up. You know, like the whole story could be about a big fight, and you can still get a PG rating. But if there's love and sex involved, NC-17 or at least R. You know, like you can't have like.
None of that. But
you know, like I think we value for our young people, we value exposing them to violence higher than we value exposing them to love.
Wow. Do you know that that the situation is gotten so bad that at churches and stuff we have to have security teams now. We have to have cameras. We have to have security people. We have to have radios in places of worship. And like you said, we have just taken this issue of where our hearts are so hard when it comes down to violence. Until somebody gets shot in your neighborhood, then it's all one thing. But then if you look at, I was just looking at the news yesterday, and a kid from Muskegon gets sentenced for stealing a gun, stealing a phone, and gets 100 years. There's a young kid for killing a 19-year-old kid. So not only the gun issue is a school issue, it's all over the issue when it comes.
Yeah, you know, it's all over, and it's there's so many I guess misappropriations of our attention and value. We put way too much weight in some weird places sometimes. And, I don't know that we can fix it all in one fell swoop, but there's something simple, I think, about the notion that violence costs. We see it all the time, It is not the most effective way to solve conflicts. It's just like when I have an issue with somebody on whatever scale, whether it's, the terrorists who blew up the, Twin Towers, or if it's the beef I have with the girl who is who likes the same guy that I do, like whatever it is, like those things are issues that people have together when they live in community, and you have to figure out what the differences are, whose whose needs are driving the conflict, and what can we do to assuage those needs? What can we do to get those needs met? You know, if people would spend more of their energy trying to fill other people's needs instead of trying to just um, get their own,
Right,
be on the
right.
right. You know, we get a lot
So
more.
we're sitting up, and the thing is that okay, we got to go to the board. We pay for the needs now that provide nourish and enable the healthy outcomes, or we pay for it later over a lifetime in the pipeline. The
Amen.
fighting for the distribution of dollars is sometimes very deliberate. Thank you, Benita.
Yes.
Um,
So Ms. Ferguson knows exactly.
I think, and I think here's a starting point, and I want your opinion is because really a lot of this stuff used to get taught at home, values and stuff used to get taught at home. They're not necessarily taught at home.
Right,
So
because people don't have the time at home anymore.
People don't make the time. Sometimes they don't have it. Sometimes they choose not to.
Exactly.
One of the things that our family has always done. So we have 2 children that are not ours biologically. They came to us as teenagers. They are very much our children now. But
me too.
We came together after they were fairly formed. So they had some ideas about life and the world, and we spent a lot of time unteaching things.
Deprogramming.
Yeah, and you know, one thing that has always been one of the hard rules at our table is we eat dinner together as a family anytime we possibly can. No phones allowed, no electronics. We sit down and we have a conversation.
Right.
And it's such a simple thing, but it is life-changing how just spending time together. Everybody's got to eat, right?
Mm-hmm.
People sit in front of their TV or on their phone scrolling, or take a plate, go to your room. Like there are little things that people can do to come together in community, and it can make such an impact.
Well, and you're right. Like in our household, we have where anybody can call a family meeting to discuss issues.
Yes.
And so that's something that we still do that today. And it's like, okay, need to have a family meeting. Dad, you need to lose some weight. We care about you. Got to lose some weight. But I mean, we have that. We have that kind of communication.
Yeah.
So if we had communication at home to discuss values, I think another thing that we can do, and I want your opinion on it, that is a fairly easy one, but it doesn't happen, is when our legislatures give us those same old homiletics about it, you know, everybody needs this and all this kind of stuff. How about we vote them out? Until we get something done. We've been doing political coverage for years, and we try to explain people how important it is to get the vote. How about if somebody tells you after the shooting that there's nothing that can be done, you say, okay, let's vote them out.
Yep. Maybe there's nothing you can do, but there's somebody else behind you who will do the hard work.
Thank you.
Yes. You know, and I will say, as a pretty recently elected person,
doing the hard work.
Yeah. I don't have any rights to my seat. I don't. I have earned it for 4 years. And at the end of that 4 years, I want people to weigh me and see, did she represent us in a good and true way? And if I didn't, boot me. You know, it does boggle my mind how we continue to elect people that aren't doing what we need them to do, and then we reelect them.
And I think you're being kind of modest there, because if you look at the police, a public safety officer that you chief that you just hired, who's fantastic, that just came in and said, look, our fire department is a mess. Our police department is a mess. We need equipment. We need to raise salaries. We need to get more people here. It's a great start of protecting people, and people don't understand. Going to those school board meetings, going to those city commission meetings is a whole part of the tribe system to have better. If somebody is shooting in my neighborhood, I guarantee you I'm dialing 911. I don't care who it is.
Yes.
But in some neighborhoods, it's snitches get stitches.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's part of the culture. Oh my goodness, I heard
Absolutely.
that. And I understand and respect how that standard has developed. I mean, I understand why it might make sense that we would want to protect ourselves from the police, as a community.
Yes.
Right.
That makes sense to me. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that if things are going to change, my best bet to see it change the way that I want it to be is for me to be the one initiating the changes.
Yes. I had an experience a couple of months ago. Again, at my work, I walked out of my office and I saw a brawl in the middle of the road. There was probably 20 people there watching some fighting in the middle of the road go down, and I called 911 because I didn't know what it was. It was escalating, and I was not comfortable with just walking away from that. And I called
Or how frustrating does that make you guys feel when people come up with that narrative that if there's a fight or brawl, that they should not get involved because it's not their business?
If it's your community,
it is your business.
If when we come to the point where we recognize those people who are having that fight are shaping the environment that I live in, that my kids live in, that my schools live. When I recognize that it's not just their business, that it is my business, that changes.
But when I did that, I stayed there until the police came, and a couple of the neighbors that had been watching it happen came over and asked me, "Did you call 911?" And I said, "Yeah, I did. I didn't feel okay walking away from this." And they thanked me for calling 911, and I was blown away. Like, if you're glad that I did it, why didn't you? Because how long had this been happening before I came out and noticed it? And like I said, there was probably 20 people standing there, and somebody had a broken bottle that they hit someone in the head, and I was like, okay, I have to call now. I can't. This isn't.
Wow.
And they were so grateful to me for being the one to do that, and I know it was because they didn't feel safe. That like I'm not. I don't know. I think I don't have good sense sometimes because I'm not afraid enough.
Good for you.
I will run at danger if I think I can be helpful, and that's my personal quirk.
That's me too, because you surprised. I would have ran in the fight, so that's just me.
I almost did, and I did
Well,
stop there.
I'm glad you're smart, and I'm just a little stupid that way.
Yeah. And I have done that. I have gone running and screaming at people to knock it off when they were fighting. But for some reason this time there were too many people, and I was like, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to call for help.
Which is smart. Now I want to talk to both of you, because it used to be in the day, and you talk about a lot when somebody is shot at school or shoots up a school. They thought about it. This girl drew out maps, manifesto. I mean, they've thought about this. They bought guns. They've done everything. They've done research. In the old days, when we went to school, you know what? You had to deal with bullying, and you just had to be fast and get home, and there was some relief, unless they had your phone number, which was connected to a wall. But that's old school. But now, because of social media, is that the bullying continues to happen, and and then not only that, the information that is out there on the web. Oh man! So what are the kids supposed to believe, and how are they supposed to deal with bullying? And I don't know where to start, guys.
Yeah, I think that it's a really complicated problem, right? It's more than guns, it's more than mental health, it's more than parents being available for their kids. It's all tied together. And, they talk about, how do you eat an elephant? Well, one bite at a time, right? So,
One bite at a time.
what is the bite that you can take? What is the thing that
Mm-hmm.
you can do as an individual? Me, I'm gonna run for office and I'm gonna be a social worker.
Good
Like,
for you.
I'm also gonna raise some kids that I didn't give birth to because I can help, right? So maybe you can be a mentor. Maybe you can donate some money to an organization that helps kids. Maybe you can connect someone to a resource. Like, what is the one bite that you can take? Because we all eat this thing.
Great.
Not one of us that's going to manage it.
Mm-hmm. I think what you said is very important, and you guys have lived it out. Is that if you are coaching a son or a daughter, and you see someone left in the neighborhood that's not doing something, take the time to invest in that. Grab one, take one. Take that person and get them involved in the sport. If there's a lot of people that invested in me, that saw something in me to get me involved in stuff to lead me to a better path, I wouldn't know where I would be if those people were not in my life.
Yeah, same here, man. I understand how much my own development was fed by, countless men and women who were choir directors and youth group leaders and teachers and, all sorts of people who took it upon themselves to say, okay, I see there's a gap there that this kid is experiencing. What can I do to help fill that gap?
Mm-hmm.
Can I point him to the right summer program? Can I, give him a place to come to at recess to have some place to talk to somebody, where he's not feeling ostracized from lean in to uh, take him and along with the other males in this youth group for like an overnight camping trip or we did. I did a lot of things coming up that my family couldn't do for me. Other people in the community created those opportunities for me, and so I really understand how critical that is in developing good people, which is why I'm here to do it again, because this is, from what I can see, this is what works. Looking outside of my own individual needs, whether individual includes my direct blood relations or not, like my own individual needs, isolated from the community, and recognizing that, hey, it's those needs outside of my box that require my attention.
Very good point. Very good. Because one of the things that happens is that you only witness and talk to people that look like in your neighborhood.
Yes.
So we, as people of this country, need to realize that we have a very serious issue with this gun thing, and it is not to be played with. But yet, I see people that have podcasts and radio shows that say like Sandy Hooks never exist. What? But these people are show no compassion with their false narratives. And then the amazing thing is that people believe it.
Right.
Because sometimes it's easier to believe a ridiculous falsehood than to take the effort to make the change happen.
Mm.
It's like if I believe this false narrative, then I don't have to do anything. I don't have to put myself out of my comfortable box, and I'm not responsible because it didn't actually even happen.
Mm.
One thing that I will add is there's a lot of research that shows that one caring adult can have a huge preventative measure for kids who are high risk for suicide. And many of these school shootings are, also a suicide. We don't talk about that as much, but very, very often they intend to die themselves when they're doing this. And there's a lot of research that shows that one caring adult relationship doesn't have to be a parent, it doesn't have to be family, it doesn't have to be a teacher, but one adult that they know, hey, if I need something, they might help me, can be life-changing for youth.
Right. So let's go from kids to adults.
Okay.
Because let's be honest here. I mean, we were always taught, okay, when you go home, that house right there, leave it alone.
Mm-hmm.
How much are we have to pay attention to looking and seeing? Because people are usually a good judgment of people, and at some point we have to get involved because there are people just stewing in their house, especially watching the news, making decisions. And how involved that we got to get in and knowing our neighbor.
When I was campaigning, I knocked on lots and lots and lots of doors.
Been there, sister.
I went to houses that had signs and flags that were supporting Trump and very very conservative, and I went there anyway because
good for you.
I'm in a nonpartisan seat, so somebody is going to represent that individual. And I had some pretty interesting conversations with people. They would ask me, well, who did you vote for? And I'm like, well, I'm a liberal, and I'm still going to represent you. So here I am on your doorstep talking to you. Who else has come to talk to you? Oh, well,
good point.
So we have to have those conversations with people that are scary to us. And I'm not going to say it was easy. And I a couple of times stood out like, I'm just not going to go to this door. Like, yes, I am. And did they vote? I don't know if they voted for me or not, but I bet they remember me.
I saw a sign. I was at a store and I saw a flag that was so offensive that I just wanted to stand there and talk to that person.
Yeah.
I just had to have a talk with that person and say, it used to be in politics, if you won, you lost. You conceded if you lost. Congratulations, call the person and say congratulations. But some of the flags and stuff that I'm saying does not represent the melting pot of this country and our Constitution and all that we're about. Is that now is just, if you didn't vote for the person F you and a multitude of other cuss words that they're using. So what are you supposed to tell your kids?
This I think we have lost sight, like you're saying, of how this particular governmental system is designed to work. Like, we've lost sight of the fact that the value of being a citizen in this mix is that you're the boss. Like, as citizens, in a very significant sense, we are empowered by this system to create the laws through representatives.
Right.
We're empowered to design our society. And this is something that we can do in America differently than people in jurisdictions all around the world have ever had. You go to go to Europe even 100 years ago, when we were more aware of our power, political power, it would have been unheard of for just rank and file, Joe anybody
Mm-hmm.
to feel like they could change the system. But people do that here in America all the time.
All the time.
And they do it because the cultural mythology even it reinforces this knowledge that yes, we are a country of, by, and for the people, and we're supposed to remember that and know that when we step in the ballot box, but not just when we step in the ballot box, when we have conversations about political issues. And
Right.
Every community issue is a political issue. Anything that happens with people is a political issue. And our conversation so often neglects that this is our responsibility. It's not just my privilege to be able to tell the president, hey, I don't like what you're saying, you better do different. It's not that I can get up at a school board meeting and have my 3 minutes of public comment and wag my finger at people for doing things that I don't like.
Right.
It's not just about a right to be angry and vociferate at people. It's about understanding this is my responsibility. It is my privilege and my responsibility to shape the society that I live in.
Yes.
And we forget that too often in the way that we discourse about community issues.
Kwame, Rebecca, listen, I know you're on vacation, but can we have you guys back on? Because this issue is so much deeper than hour's conversation. Can we have you guys back on?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'd love to continue this conversation.
We're going to have you guys back on after we finish the series. No, we probably have you on the series with racism too.
We have a little familiarity with that too.
Yeah, we got a familiar with it. Listen, you guys enjoy your trip in Chicago. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Listen, people, this has been Torn in Two. Listen, go sow a seed in somebody's life. You never know who you are going to touch. Have a great weekend. Take care. God bless.